as you know, when we have a story break here on this program, we don't just take a look at it from the surface. We take a look at it 360 from on high, treetops on down. Okay? That's the way we operate here. Mm-hmm. So when I heard Anthony Richardson getting benched in season 2, just 8 weeks in, and my initial reaction wasn't just about, what Joe Flacco can do and what Anthony Richardson couldn't do. I'm like, this is a quarterback development problem now that the first overall pick in last year's draft and the fourth overall pick in last year's draft have been benched in year 2. So that's my way of patting myself on the back and bringing in our guest to make us smarter. Quarterback consultant Jordan Palmer. I said, bring me Jordan Palmer, and he said, okay, I will do this. Thank you for joining us, Jordan. Appreciate it.
I'm here for you, Rich. Anything you need, man.
Attaboy.
You need some Rolos, or if the guys in the studio need a better understanding of what Rolos are, I'm happy to provide it because I feel like I'm.
Appreciate that.
You want to break down? You want to break it down, Jordan?
To be honest with you, I'm surprised nobody brought up Abba Zabbas because for my brother and I, we used to take Abba Zabbas, throw them in the freezer, and that was candy for one bar was for a week. And it gets that peanut butter in the middle. It might not be till Wednesday. So there's some good candy conversation, but you guys missed on a couple.
What was Halloween like in the Palmer household, Jordan? What was that like?
It's a lot like it is today. It was the family dressing up. I remember my brother and I as hobos, as that one's vivid, Army guys, because my older brother was in the military, my oldest brother. And so it was usually team dressed up until Carson was too cool to hang out with me anymore. Okay.
And are you fully ready tonight to give out candy in your neighborhood, or you're going? What do you get? What is it? What do we
go to the same spot every year? A bunch of family friends. My kids are 8, 6, 2, and 3 months, and have a good day around here. And my boys are all into football, so they're all their favorite player. One of them's Josh, one of them's Sam, one of them's Justin Herbert, and then my wife and I are going to be refs, just throwing flags on.
That's great. That's awesome.
Your sister.
That's so good.
It's going to be
so it's right. So you're going to call your children for illegal formation if they're not all lined up properly for the candy, pretty much.
Definitely going to be some personal fouls tonight.
And by the way, I love it. Fantastic. All right, so let's jump into this subject matter at hand here. What did you think of when you heard that Anthony Richardson was getting benched, Jordan?
Paying attention to it for sure, because there's a couple of elements here. One, let's look at it this way. Let's look at Anthony, and then let's look at Shane Steichen, and then let's look at the current opportunities for the Indianapolis Colts with whoever's playing quarterback for them. As far as Flacco is concerned, my only take on him is put him in a good situation, and you'll get what you got last year, which I believe was comeback player of the year. So that doesn't change. That's not part of the equation as far as I'm concerned. We know what Joe is. And what he can do. And he's motivated and has played at a high level recently, not back in Baltimore, but recently. But with Anthony, he's selected 4th, and I believe he only started 12 games in college. So, and if I'm off, I'm only off by a couple of games on that. This was not Brock Purdy with 40-something starts or Bo Nix with 61 starts, right? And so he really hasn't played the position. And it's ironic coming from somebody like me that trains quarterbacks in the offseason a lot. I believe the best way to get better at playing football is by playing football. So it's a little bit of it's tricky because he needs to develop, but clearly the team thinks the priority is the team winning right now, and that Joe gives them the best option to do that. But the problem is everyone drafts for the future. That's why you take somebody at 4, or you trade from 9 to 1 to take somebody at 1. You're doing it for the future, and you're willing to go through the growing pains, if you want to use that term, in the short term, for a better future and a bigger outcome. And so this is one of the trickiest ones because obviously he has not played great, but he also has made plays in each of these games. I mean, the slip at the top of his drop, throw it 68 yards on a post route versus Houston, you can't just buzz past that play. Right. And not factor it in. So the ceiling, I don't think, has changed with Anthony. I just think they thought the floor would be higher. And so I'm absolutely going to stunt his development and going to overcomplicate a situation that's already complicated when you're the 4th pick and asked to play early. The second thing is Shane Steichen. So here's what I know about Shane Steichen. I know him personally, but here's what I know from a resume perspective. He's with LA for 1 year in Justin Herbert and has a historic rookie year. He goes to Philly, and we see the best version of Jalen Hurts, gets a giant contract, plays in the Super Bowl. And then he goes to Indy. And so if I look backwards on Shane Steichen, personally, I go, well, that's not the problem. He's got a track record. He didn't get lucky with one guy. He's done it at multiple places. And so with Shane, I go, regardless of who, and I don't know who exactly is making the final decision here, right? But in terms of Shane's ability to get a quarterback ready to play and get the most out of him, I just think he's got a track record of proving that. And then the third one is the team. And this is I think the most compelling point here is you bet on right now. And I think you do this and you go with Joe. If you think you have a chance to win a Super Bowl, you think you have a chance to really make a run deep in the playoffs. Now, it doesn't really matter if I think the Colts do or not, but clearly they do by making this decision. And so you can only afford to not win now and plan on the future if you can't win now either way. But it appears that they think they can win now with Joe Flacco. And I haven't watched him enough to have an opinion on it, but I'm definitely going to be watching him now, because if this is a season that goes as good as it can possibly go and they miss the playoffs or they get eliminated first round, then this is going to look like a waste and a decision that they're probably going to want back. And they're going to probably have rather swap that out for 8 or 9 more games of getting Anthony Richardson better at football.
So you're right in that the only way that you can get better at playing football is to actually play football. And last year he had 13 games where he could watch the football games being played and seeing what it's like from there. And that's why everybody thought that the floor would be higher this year, is because he did have that last year of being able to, he got his feet wet a little bit and then got a chance to sit back and see how it's all done from a planning perspective and then a play calling perspective and everything else. And now he's being told to sit and watch again based on ineffectual play. And the question I have for you is this now delays till year 3? Because I don't think Flacco's going to do anything but play well, and that they will be in a race for a 7th or a 6th seed or something like that. And thus he will finish the rest of the season, in my estimation. Right? So now it's going to be year 3 to figure out what the floor and the ceiling is for Anthony Richardson. Right, Jordan? Because what else is he going to do? Right?
That's the problem. And so, one of two things is going to happen in our opinion. It sounds like Joe Flacco is going to play well or Joe Flacco is going to get hurt. And if Anthony goes back in the game because he's the 2 filling in for the injured starter, that's not the same thing, right? That's not, he's playing, but he's playing on a very different pretense. And so at the end of the year, let's say that happens, right? They're the number 6 seed. They win the AFC South and they go and then they get eliminated by Buffalo in the first round or whatever. Let's say that plays out. You're going to sign Joe Flacco to a long-term contract. And so it's the same situation, not the same, but it's a similar situation that the Browns were in last year when Joe played great. And so, I think it delays it to year 3. And now you have to, I just think this is going to be one of the more complicated QB situations in the NFL for the next, 6 to 18 months because of this decision that was made right now. Now I want to make sure I make this point. For a lot of people don't know much about Anthony Richardson. A couple things that I do know about him: he does not have work ethic problems. He does not have study habit problems, and he for darn sure does not have talent problems. And so this is really an experience thing and playing more football. And there's certain picks. I always say this to quarterbacks. There's certain picks you got to throw to know you can't throw that ball. Like, coach can tell you don't throw it late over the middle. At some point, you got to throw one late over the middle for it to burn into your memory that I can't do that. I can't make that throw. I can't fit that one in there. And that's, unfortunately, as I think about Anthony and his development, that's what you miss out on when you're not out there. And I don't believe that all experience or any experience is good experience, but I have seen rough times be great experience for guys. Last time I was on your show, we spent a lot of time talking about Sam Darnold. I think a lot of the reasons he's playing so well right now is a lot of the hard times that he went through. And so I don't think it all translates, but experience is better than not having it.
Yeah, I mean, that story you just told, Jordan, or at least the example you just gave, reminds me of a story that I heard about a once upon a time first overall drafted quarterback in Indianapolis, in Peyton Manning, from Marshall Faulk. He told this story that standing next to Peyton in the backfield and in the huddle his entire rookie season, which he threw 28 interceptions, that Peyton would say the same thing coming off the field after throwing an interception, saying, I didn't think he could get there, meaning the defender that he didn't see or he didn't think would be able to get to his throw in time to a receiver that he thought was open, closed faster than he thought. And Marshall let that go for a bit until he finally said, he told Peyton, he goes, Peyton, this is the NFL. Everyone can get there. And Peyton obviously learned from that, as we have, spoiler alert, he has. And so you also mention how it's not the same thing if Richardson gets back in, if the starter gets hurt. That's the situation that Bryce Young just found himself in last week. So I kind of ask you here, is like, what can the NFL do, Jordan, to get quarterbacks who are drafted high and are paid handsomely under their rookie contracts the reps if they're unready to play?
Well, this is going to sound like I'm pitching right now, but this is what I do for a living. That's why I use the word consulting. We do it at the college level with around a dozen guys and a handful of NFL as well. But, last year, Jake Browning came in. I went on your show before he started, and I said, oh, this guy's going to light it up. And I'm not a fortune teller. The writing was on the wall for me. And after about his second or third game of going nuts and throwing for 3-something and not turning it over, a reporter, friend of mine, Jeff Hobson, I think it was from Cincinnati, asked him, man, you've been on practice squad for 2 years. What happened? Like, where's this coming from? And Jake had a great line. He said, I've been in 2 great organizations with 2 great head coaches. And he backed up Kirk Cousins and Joe Burrow. Like, he's had examples of how to do things the right way all around him, right? And he said, I came to the conclusion that the NFL does not provide a personal development plan for me. And so I had to go out and build it. And so, honestly, this is what we do. We consult physically, mentally, and emotionally year round. All my clients are on annual retainers. What's crazy about this, I actually had a former MLB general manager in my office yesterday talking about this, is how far behind quarterback development is as a league, how far that is behind pitching in Major League Baseball, hitting in Major League Baseball, and the PGA Tour, and how it's, there's private coaches everywhere and gurus who are experts at what they do, but really somebody who can fuse into the physical, mental, emotional part of it. And then on the physical alone, be able to actually sync and coordinate what happens in the weight room, what happens in the training room, and what happens in the quarterback room. Those 3 departments are typically not synchronized. And so a lot of times, this is going to sound nerdy here, a lot of times when I work with a college program or an NFL team, what I'm really doing is interdepartmental communications consulting. We're 3 departments that currently exist that do not communicate to each other and are not on the same page. And it's not a problem with the Indianapolis Colts. It's actually a systemic problem across all 32 teams. In one way or another, I'm connected to all 32 of them and all the best colleges. Last year, I did my 60th different colleges pro day. And so I see it everywhere, uniquely positioned to have this opinion. And so we absolutely have a development problem when it comes to quarterback. But I'll also say it this way, Rich. I think the most expensive problem in all of sports is that your quarterback sucks. And nothing sets your franchise back farther as an NFL team. And when you think about Joel Klatt, I had a great conversation with Joel Klatt last year about this. When they fired Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M and there was $87 million left on his contract and everyone made a big deal about that, the number's not 87. You got to buy the new guy out of his contract. You got to give him a new contract. He's going to bring in his new coaches, which means you're going to end the contract and pay all the assistants you're firing. That number is closer to 110. And in that time, Texas A&M had several 4- and 5-star prospects go there and play football there. So they didn't have a recruiting problem in that window. They had a developmental problem in that window. And so I see it clear as day. This is what I do all day long at the college and NFL level. It's not a problem. It's a crisis. And that the fan base is so motivated, and gambling and all the things around it, it puts pressure on the decision makers to have to not just hit on the right quarterback, but hit on the right quarterback who can play great early. And every time a CJ Stroud and a Jaden Daniels comes along, it screws it up for everybody else. Not ready that early.
Yeah, no doubt about it. There is a bunch of quarterbacks who get to play who are unready to play in the NFL. And
they're bad. They're just not ready yet. Right. I backed up Gabbert. He was the 10th pick in the draft. They traded to 10 to take Blaine. J.J. Watt was the 11th pick. Okay. And I backed him up early, and it was clear, I'll leave it at, he wasn't ready to play. Physically, he's still one of the best I've seen in person. He just wasn't ready to play. I think he's in his like 16th year now. Won a Super Bowl with the Chiefs, won a Super Bowl with the Bucs. Like, he was not the quarterback in that window that Jacksonville needed him to be. And I don't think Jacksonville supported him the way that he needed support at that time. But you want to tell me that he's bad at football with all those Super Bowl rings and all that money? No, I think it's a fantastic career. And so when people are ready, this is a timing thing. When guys are ready and the support around them. It's much more complicated than get him an X receiver and get him a great coordinator. There's a lot more elements to this. And I think I'm starting to churn the soil on conversations at the ownership and front office levels and the AD and head coach levels in college to start to get to see that stop trying to do it the way that school that did it right or that NFL team that did it right. Stop trying to copy that. Start looking at other sports and look what golf and baseball does.
Well, not to have you give the roadmap to make your business less relevant, but why wouldn't the NFL just try and figure something out in their own house, right? I mean, why wouldn't they, as owners, sit down and address the issues that you're pointing out they have? And it's not just that, too. It's the product you sometimes, when it's a quarterback who's been drafted high, who's not ready, taking on a backup that didn't think he was going to play, and the team didn't want him to play yet because he's not ready. And those two quarterbacks face off on a Thursday night, or face off on a Monday night that hasn't been flexed out of, or which ESPN now has the rights to do. You see what I'm saying? Then suddenly that product's out there on the field, and your team suffers. Your coaches, I mean, as you mentioned, it's not just an expensive money problem if the quarterback stinks. That's the best way to have somebody get fired. You know what I mean? And so why is there no plan here on that front, Jordan?
I keep hearing the term imperfect science. I hear it at the draft a lot, right? You're always out there. Right? And you go, well, what's the quarterback? Imperfect science. Well, I think my answer to your question is I don't know.
Okay.
But there's another piece, though, that is just completely missing. And this is why I had a former general manager in my office from Major League Baseball, because he did a fantastic job of incorporating data into how they make every decision. When do you pull a pitcher? Based off of the percentage likelihood of an injury, based off of velocity and all that. How do you factor in all that data? I do a lot with data, and a lot of times when I talk to teams, that's the first conversation they've had about something like that. So I work with Wilson. We have a chip on the ball. We measure velocity, spin rate, and spiral efficiency. I talk to a lot of NFL coaches. They don't know what that is. Huh. We throw on force plates, measure the amount of force they're putting into the ground, just like every golfer on tour and every hitter in MLB does. Teams aren't really familiar with that before, especially the quarterback position. What does that have to do with anything? And so I think what teams, that's one of the misses. That's not going to solve everything. But I think teams are so focused on right here, right now, what's next, and everybody's plate's full. And for me, because I'm not a traditional coach, because I control my own schedule and I control my client list and who's in my room, I've had an opportunity to go and spend a bunch of time on that stuff. And teams there's always too many things to do in each day, college or pro, every role in the building. And I don't see enough forward thinking from teams of looking outside the box to see what are all of the problems, what can we solve? And this is what I'm doing now. Who can we bring in to solve the ones that we can't do, whether that's in our building or with the specific set amount of time that we have with the players?
See, I knew you'd be the perfect guest. I said, let's talk to Jordan Palmer. Call 1-800-JORDAN, right?
Yeah. Go to QBSummit.com.
The QBSummit.com. Very good for more information on all of that. All right. So 4 kids, 4 different quarterbacks tonight. Is that what you said? That's
3 quarterbacks. My little girl, I got a little 3-month-old girl. She's going to be the ball.
Okay. Very good.
Amazing.
Okay. And the chip inside that is a potato chip, I imagine, for that one. Very good. Very good. And just to show you before I let you go, I know you're a Burrow guy as well. Did you see who's dressing as Joe Burrow? Jordan, have you seen this? There's Macaulay Culkin. There he is.
We're watching Home Alone 5 nights a week in my house. So, yeah, I cracked up when I saw this.
That's pretty good, right? I mean, looks really good. Yeah, Joe.
Usually when you dress up like somebody, you have to change your hair or change something about your face. And he literally just put on a jersey. So,
And by the way, a quality helmet, Bengals helmet. And this was Joe's response. Touche, alleged doppelganger. That's what he sent out there. So
good.
That's awesome. I love it.
And did I pick up one of your kids as Sam Darnold tonight?
Yeah, my little 2-year-old. And I went and I just literally last night got the perfect shade of orange spray for his hair and for the little beard we're going to draw on him. It's so good. It's so good.
Hey man, if you pop a photograph out there, we'll share it with the audience now that you've set the table for us. So have a great time tonight, Jordan.
It's going to be good. You too. Appreciate having me on.
Say hi to all the Palmers. That's Jordan Palmer right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Told you, let's go get Jordan. This is his gig, man. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku Channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.